Welcome back to the Picture Show. First appearing in 1966 in an issue of Fantastic Four, and then later getting his own comic in 1973. All this time later in 2018, Black Panther finally gets his own movie. Let's take a look at the trailer.
I have seen gods fly. I've seen men build weapons that I couldn't even imagine. I've seen aliens drop from the sky.
Yeah.
But I have never seen anything like this. How much more are you hiding?
Hold up. Let's go.
We are home. My son, it is your time.
Show me my respect and bow down.
You get to decide what kind of king you are going to be. Don't freeze.
I never freeze.
The revolution will not be televised.
Show me my respect and bow down. We own ya. We own ya. We only getting started now. Cause we own ya. Everybody think they know me now. Cause we own ya. You and I'm a homie now. Cause we own ya.
I waited my entire life for this. The world's gonna start over. I'ma burn it all.
What happens now determines what happens to the rest of the world.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out.
Wakanda forever!
The revolution will not be televised.
Let's have some fun.
The revolution will be live.
And that was your first look at Black Panther. I'm your host, Alex Richardson. Today I'm joined by two guests. We first got our regular favorite, Daniel Foots, over here, and our special guest, BPCC alumni, Tim Smith, stunt actor extraordinaire.
What's going on, y'all?
What's going on? So
good.
you were actually on the set of Black Panther.
Yeah.
And you have a long history within stunt work, correct?
Yeah, I've been doing it full time for about almost 10 years now.
All right. Like
Yeah.
what? I know you've been on some certain things, like our movie post over. You were on Proud Mary.
Yeah.
You've recently been on shows like Black Lightning, Into the Borderlands, Walking Dead, all
Badlands.
Into the Badlands. Borderlands is a video game. What other ones that like have kind of really like are cemented in your memory, like stuff that you really enjoy doing?
Well, of course, Black Panther is probably my #1 favorite to have been on now. But Oblivion was a real fun one because I got to work with
a great movie.
Tom Cruise. Yeah, it was fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, Into the Badlands was fun. Walking Dead was fun. Like, all of them are fun.
Is it just all around fun being a stunt actor? I'm
Oh,
sure you
yeah.
get your fair share of bruises. And
Yeah. I've never been sidelined, but yeah, I've been banged up. But
I've seen that you've actually also been on fire at one point, right?
yeah, but didn't actually get burned, but I was on fire.
That's a good thing.
My guys kept me safe.
And so, being on the set of Black Panther, and then you watching, like being a regular average moviegoer, I want to hear y'all's feelings on the movie of Black Panther, because this was really a big movie for you.
Yeah.
And so what was like? I'll start with you first because I want to hear a lot what you have to say. Like, how was it going to watch the film?
Like going into it, they had all the buildup for it, and I mean, it's undeniable that the black community followed this movie so much because, one, this wasn't a movie depicting us in any stereotypical fashion. It wasn't a movie about slavery. Like, we have a small niche in the world, and then, lately, Tyler Perry has pretty much taken over what people consider to be black movies, and it's awful. It's especially compared to stuff like Black Panther. So seeing it is good just to be able to see something that's positive All the cast, the director, most of the crew, they're getting the recognition now that we deserve, and the success of this movie is probably just going to progress this. And really, Marvel is to thank for a lot of these changes because of the impact that people that they take away from these movies. I mean, there's kids now who have never seen a black superhero that was serious. I mean, we have Blank Man, Meteor Man. They're always gimmicks.
Yeah,
this is an actual followable
one
character.
I heard, because like I hear a lot of arguments is like, what about Blade? Blade was an anti-hero. What about Hancock? Hancock was a drunk, an alcoholic, and it's just like they're not.
And he was also an alien that wasn't like a black movie. Yeah. This is so strong because it's an entire country. And then the leader and everybody else, even the other characters in the movies, they're all strong black actors. The cast is just absolutely insane.
Fantastic. Because like we got Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, we got Michael B. Jordan as Eric Killmonger, Lupita Nyong'o as Nakia, and Danai Gurira, I hope I'm saying her last name, Gurira, as Okoye. Like, honestly, like,
and Chadwick Boseman is he's already on the map for black movies because he did Jackie Robinson, and that movie had such success, and that's really kind of progressed his career. I'm glad he's taken this path to stay on kind of, the black impact. So, I mean, I think that you can't go wrong with the rest of this from here on out for the black community.
We also got Daniel Kaluuya, who recently was nominated for an Oscar for his, with his movie Get Out that he starred in.
Yep.
And I saw some jokes about his a problem with discerning, like who to be with.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We even, in the theaters when we were there and he showed up on screen the first time, you heard like the murmurs in the crowd because of this guy's role in Get Out, and it's just, now when you see him, he's going to be attached to that forever, but at least this is an easy way to kind of get out. And he had a pretty pivotal role in the swing of the movie, going on the upside by bringing in Killmonger.
And like they're like really like wonderful actors, all, because I know even Ryan Coogler actually like worked with them into training and like learning their dialect, because like they all were like kind of taken from different sects and parts of Africa, and it really like shows strong. Like nothing sounded fake.
Yeah, and actually I saw an interview with him when they were all learning the language in the script, the way they wrote the language, because it's the clicking sounds of all of that, they would write an X and a square, and that would mean you would have to pronounce it in the Wakandan, and that's, what they did. And they were saying they all just reread those, because you don't want to have these parts that are going to be in this movie look bad, look like it's unnatural. Like, accents and different languages can sometimes just fall in movies. This one, I mean, the whole movie flows. Everybody's speech, the back and forth, and they have at least 6 different dialects in the movie, which normally might be hard to keep up with, but since it all just kind of gelled together, it was great.
I know a lot of people sometimes complain about it. It's like, subtitles on a movie makes it hard to watch. I don't think so. Like, these things flowed so naturally.
Inglourious Bastards is the movie that kind of pushed that completely aside. That movie was 70% subtitles, so since then, you've seen them way more in Hollywood movies because of the success that had. And in this one, it was completely necessary. English is not the language around the world, and this movie takes place in 5 different countries.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so that is our viewpoint from an average moviegoer, but for someone who was on the film, what did this film mean for you?
Oh, well, as soon as I heard it was going to be made, like, I knew that I just really wanted to be a part of it. And before, like, I'm always a fan first. Even though I might work in the industry, I'm going to always be a fan first. So when I go see things like this, I go into it like the same mindset as you, like, as a fan. And I knew it would be big, but I didn't know it was going to be this big. I think it kind of caught us all by surprise. Like, how much did it make opening weekend? Like, over 200 million?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Broke every movie record that exists except for Titanic.
As of 2 days ago, when I checked it, its domestic box office is already $263 million.
Wow.
Jeez.
And it has blown past its own budget, which I think this had like a $200 million budget.
$200 million, the most for any Marvel movie ever, which is crazy thinking about the last 5.
It exceeded it within days.
Yeah.
So
yeah, whenever the global numbers get updated at the end of the month, I'd be really interested to see, because this wasn't just like Titanic was only popular in America. This movie breaks that wall, and everywhere everybody likes it. They were even showing the videos of people in China and Japan going to the theater and coming to America gear. It doesn't happen. That doesn't happen with anything else that's not Star Wars.
And so. Your role on the movie, you were part of the Jabari Warriors, which was ran by M'Baku, played by Winston Duke, low-key best part of the film for me. He was hilarious.
The funniest part, yeah.
And but so how did it feel being like dressed in that kind of outfit, that garb, and like being a Jabari warrior? Because
Oh.
I'm assuming like even as a stunt actor, like there is a sense of like kind of immersing yourself in that role.
Oh yeah, like just like you've heard the actors that have played Superman, they said when they put the suit on, like they just really felt like Superman, and being in costume really does help. It helps everything from the way you move, if you have lines, the way you deliver those, like it just changes you. So I loved it. Like I wish I could have brought it home.
And you like, you know, did you try to bring anything home?
No, they're really tight on Marvel. So like, I was even afraid to touch my phone. That's why I don't have any pictures from set or anything. 'Cause, yeah, they don't want anything getting leaked early. So I just left my phone in the car.
So speaking of like being within the film, what are y'all's thoughts on the film itself? Because I personally, I love the film. Like my only critique with it was, like, as we talked about before, was the fact that it kind of falls into the same formula of Marvel of hero fights literal other version of himself, evil version of himself, because Killmonger gets a Black Panther, which you even see in the trailer.
Yeah.
And but that being said, you have not an issue with that, but something to say about that because of how it departs from the comics.
Yeah, so the Marvel Universe, Stan Lee very specifically makes all of these characters based in New York. There's a few that are in LA. Iron Man moves out of New York to LA in the second Iron Man, but Killmonger specifically was supposed to be from Harlem. In this movie, they changed it to Oakland, but it was on purpose. Ryan Coogler is from Oakland, so he wanted to give some shout out to that. So they made him from Oakland, and the actual Black Panther party started in Oakland. So that was just a little twist. I did not like it. I don't like that they changed it from the comic, but that's probably the best reason to change something. That was, you know, putting more emphasis on the Black community.
Well, they even started the film off, because like, I remember being a little bit lost when they started the film, because it was just like some guys planning a heist and there's kids outside playing basketball. And I'm like, what is all this? And then they revisit it in the film a little bit, when you realize that the guy who's playing the heist is King T'Chaka, T'Challa's father. It's his brother, and then he's like basically betraying Wakanda in a sense.
Yeah.
And so they end up killing him later. And so then you kind of find out like this whole deal that like spurs on this thing, and I was like, it makes for this arguably one of the best Marvel villain that we've had for a little bit.
Oh, hands down. It's really, to me, it's tied between him and Ultron.
Because you can't really, because I've seen a lot of people arguing about whether or not he is truly a villain, because how can you argue an evil act as fighting to change the systematic oppression of Black people everywhere?
You kind of sympathize with him.
He's going forward in a radicalized way in a sense, but at the same time, it's still somewhat a good cause.
Yeah.
And I feel like both Killmonger and T'Challa were presented as intentionally flawed characters as answers to a already bad problem.
Right.
And so they kind of have to decide which route they're going to take.
Yeah, and to go back on that scene where it's showing the young King T'Chaka, that actor is the actual older T'Chaka's son in real life. So it was just an easy cast choice for them to choose those two. And I
didn't know that.
Yeah, you can tell. I mean, I didn't notice it until I went back and looked, but the guy does look just like him. And that scene, you know, is pretty much the explanation for why Killmonger is doing what he's doing now. I think they did that so good. For these first movies for Marvel, they've had a lot of misses with the storytelling. Absolutely nothing missed in this. I mean, they hit everything. The movie flowed. Whoever edited the movie did maybe one of the best editing jobs for a story that Marvel's trying to get across. They had one flashback, they explain it. The movie flowed so well off of that, and just everything about it was great. It's got to be one of the best villains, heroes, and just stories to roll out on people.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Before we go on anymore, we're going to take a quick look at Sarah Patterson giving us our Friday Flick Pick. Stay tuned.
Hey movie buffs, thanks for tuning into our Friday Flick Pick. I'm Sarah Patterson, and this week our movie pick is Annihilation, starring Natalie Portman. In seeking answers to her husband's tragic disappearance, a biologist volunteers for an expedition into an area sealed off by the government for the last 30 years as an environmental disaster zone. A secret agency known as Southern Reach has sent 11 expeditions over those years to discover the truth about Area X, and those attempts were all failures. She and her team find a pristine wilderness, but they also notice quickly that the rules of nature and evolution seem to work in a little different way, and a creature they find is quite dangerous. Let's check out the trailer.
Can you describe its form?
No.
Start from the beginning.
What do you think I do when you're away? You think I'm out in the garden pining, looking up at the sky? Why aren't you here?
I gotta leave a day early.
Your husband's here.
Let me see him.
He's extremely ill.
You have to tell me where he was, what he was doing.
It was his decision to go in. It's something they termed the shimmer. We've sent in drones and teams of people, but nothing comes back.
But something has.
You're a biologist. You served in the military.
If I knew what happened, I could save his life.
The boundary's getting bigger, it's expanding. We're talking cities, states.
You need to know what's inside. So do I. It's beautiful.
Check this out.
It's like they're stuck in a continuous mutation.
Anything interesting in there?
No.
Sharks have teeth like that. It's not possible. You can't crossbreed different species. What is it?
The soldiers on the last expedition. They went crazy, or something in here killed them.
Something's come through the fence.
Through the fence?
We have to go back.
I can't go back.
We can camp here tonight. It's destroying everything.
It's not destroying. It's making something new.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning into the Friday Flick Pick. I'll see you at the movies. Now back to the picture show.
We're back talking about Black Panther with our guests Daniel Foots and Tim Smith. Tim Smith, do you have any special little insights on what it was like being on set with the film? Anything that general public might not know?
Well, it's fun how we would train to learn our fight choreography. It's basically like learning a dance. Like we learn the beats, beat by beat, count them out, and we would just go through all 5 beats and then just loop the fight over and over again to where it looked like we were constantly fighting the whole time.
I've even read that in like a lot of cases that African like actual tribe fighting is almost similar to dance in a few ways. Because you kind of definitely saw it with Okoye and the Royal Guards.
Oh yeah.
Like the stuff, especially with her spear. But so like what was like the learning curve, the process for that kind of?
It was pretty easy because a lot of things we had to learn on the fly. So you gotta have something that you can pick up really easy. Now for the real detailed fight scenes, they rehearse those for weeks.
Oh, okay.
So that way when it's time to shoot it, they just get in there and bang it out.
And like what else? Like you said something about messengers?
I think I forgot what I was gonna say on that part, yeah.
It's okay, we got plenty to talk about with this film. I know specifically you wanted to talk about your favorite scene in the entire movie.
Yeah, absolutely. The casino scene where Claw is making the deal with Ross to sell the vibranium, T'Challa, Nakia, and I've already forgot her name now. Okoye. God, it's so hard to remember that. They all go to try to mess up that meeting. That entire scene, Ryan Coogler, the casino is straight up taken from Casino Royale, the first scene in that when Daniel Craig does his deal. So he took that set and took it and put it in the movie for the buy scene. And because of that, he also decided to make everybody's clothing in that scene, except for Nakia and Okoye's. She's wearing red, Nakia's wearing the green, and they have Chadwick Boseman in solid black. When the 3 are walking together, they represent the pro-African flag, and that was kind of like an underlying thing. And having Okoye in the red dress he took that idea from the lady in the red dress from The Matrix, which in The Matrix, that lady is present while they're doing their training. So I kind of like that that kind of went over into her, and they just added the Wakanda gold to it to kind of give it some flair. So that scene was only 4 or 5 minutes, but I feel like just all that went into it was so good. And I liked also in that scene they had her in the wig, and that was against the tribal thing. And I like that they made it obvious that she didn't enjoy that, and that kind of was the turning point when she started fighting. I mean, that scene was so small, but if you dissect it like how I have done, you just see so much went into that. And it's a pretty big scene because that's their first time seeing Claw again since 2 movies.
Speaking of Claw, Andy Serkis in this film was hilarious.
He's great.
He's good, man.
And like his performance, like even like in that exchange he had with Martin Freeman as Everett Ross.
Yeah.
I remember like got a good little laugh out of you in like a few times.
And the thing is, and I thought it was funny, like, and it's weird to laugh at the scene where he tells the man to run out of the museum and he shoots him. And even in the scene, that scene is hard to not laugh at because that's funny. But even Killmonger is like, "Why don't you just shoot him?"
Well, yeah, to break it down for the people who haven't seen it yet, because there was like they're robbing the museum because they find this old artifact and it's misrepresented as like some other tribe of Africa, but it's actually Killmonger says like it's actually vibranium from Wakanda, and so they end up robbing the museum to get that piece, and so Claw comes in there and like starts shooting people, and then he's like, but you get to run free, just don't tell anybody about this. And he starts running and just shoots him in the back and back. And like everyone, I heard like laughter, I heard like, oh.
Yeah, like it was cruel, but it was very funny.
But the way he played it out.
And yeah, and he just kind of shrugged it off and just went on with his day.
And it's just, and he's like, come on, it's like, why'd you do that? It's like, help spread it out, it makes us look like amateurs unless.
Which is, yeah, and each time he spoke, he had like a witty, good line, and just, like in the casino, when you find out that the jig is up with everything, that whole scene, you can tell, one, he doesn't really care about anybody. He lets all of his people die for him to get out, and like, you hate to like him, but they make him funny.
I really did like their version of his Claw with his prosthetic arm, because like you saw it up close a little bit, and you could see like it really was like a prosthetic hand, like that rubber kind of plastic thing. Even the fingernails were just kind of like indented into the finger.
Yeah.
And like when it opened up and shot, I was like, I really like that arm.
And that scene too, he loved when he shot Black Panther down. He's like, that was awesome. That was like a fanboy scene that they just decided to put in there, because that's what everybody was saying in the theater. And that's the thing, that's the villain hurting the hero, but we enjoy that because it was funny with how they just made him act.
And that's a big thing with Marvel because of their tendency to have humor in it, compared to another giant,
all the Thor movies,
to another giant superhero franchise that's struggling to kind of work humor into their movies. Marvel got it down pat, like first movie with Iron Man.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like because we were saying earlier with M'Baku as Ape Man, like funny.
Yeah.
Like he shows up and like he's just this threatening figure. And that's all you know him at this point, because like he fights T'Challa for the throne of Wakanda, loses, and just like, okay, well, I lost, and leaves. And
I was glad they brought him back in the movie. I thought that would be his lone scene, like, for character building for Chadwick, but no, he had another role in the movie, and he was very funny.
Yeah, and so like then they come see him again, and like he's still this intimidating figure, and you thought like, well, this is just this character. He's just like this one note, just kind of like he's scowling a lot. And Martin Freeman starts talking, and the Jabari warrior tribe starts barking at him.
Yeah.
So
and
good.
And it was like, you will not talk unless you are allowed, otherwise I will feed you to my children. And then everybody's just like,
yeah,
hey.
the whole theater, everybody's
and then he just goes, I'm just kidding, we're vegetarians. And like, I was like, okay, this guy's actually pretty great.
Yeah,
that was probably one of my favorite scenes. You actually went and saw this film after starring in it, of course. Were there any scenes that really stood out to you that you really enjoyed?
I think my favorite part was the very end. Whenever Killmonger was on his way out, that last line he gave, like, it was just really deep, because this movie is full of messages.
Do you want to quote that line?
I don't know it verbatim, but I'll get as close as I can. T'Challa offered to save him, like take him back to Wakanda, to the hospital they have where they heal people, and Killmonger said he'd rather not. He said, bury me in the ocean, because my ancestors, they jumped from the ship because they knew death was better than bondage.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's deep.
I've seen a lot of people quoting that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for good reason. It's a great line.
The quote is great, but in the context too, because he's choosing death over living, which is just conceptually for people not what people do. But he had that much pride, and really, it's the anger from the 30 years. I feel like just it wouldn't let him go to the other side, even though they wanted him in, because he was family.
Yeah, because it really is like because of course after their fight, and then Black Panther T'Challa lands the fatal blow, and it's really not too much spoiler to say that like the Marvel because how often have we seen a Marvel movie where the villain lives on to keep going to the next film?
Yeah.
But
Loki is the only one, and he is back on the right side of things now.
Yeah. Well, like what as he's grown up, because his father's the uncle to the king was always talking about the sunrise of Wakanda or the sunset of Wakanda, and so that's where like T'Challa takes him after the fight, and like as he's like it's beautiful. And he's like maybe we can still save you, and he's like no, don't do it. Like he's like I don't want it. And purposely like takes the dagger out of his own heart and just dies there. And I was like, it really was powerful. And like I've seen so many people try to just see whether or not he is truly a villain. I think we already said like considered one of the best so far.
Yeah. I mean from the fan feedback initially, I can't think of anybody who got this much. I mean Ultron got a lot of buzz. People wanted to see Ultron, but there's no love for Ultron like there is for Killmonger. Of the Pop Funko dolls from Black Panther, Killmonger's the #1 selling one by far. I mean, it's sold out everywhere. There is just like this, you want to be able to connect to him because it's very easy to sympathize with the why. He was left behind. So that part you can get, but how he goes about it is what kind of makes you hate him because he wants to take over Wakanda, all of that. His outlook on what Wakanda should be, I didn't agree with, but I totally got the why, and that was really strong. And that also kind of tied into the Black community thing, talking about having this son that grew up without his father, and then he grows up to be successful or wanting to be successful. That's taking the stereotype and turning it kind of over on his head because he's not going in to play basketball or a sport or anything like that. He's going to be king, and that's what he's striving after. I really like that part of it.
It's like the movie is a fiction, but it had a lot of like factual messages in it. That
Oh, definitely.
Things that we deal with in real life. Like it's different from any other Marvel movie.
And with that, I think that's as much time as we have for the show today. Did you want to promote anything you might have upcoming, Tim?
Well, Black Panther's the latest thing that's come out, and I don't really know the timeline of things that are coming out later, but the latest thing I worked on was Shaft. Samuel L. Jackson did a new Shaft.
That's awesome.
So definitely be tuning into that. Y'all should definitely tune into that. And tune in next week as we talk about our Friday Flick Pick for this week, which is Annihilation. We'll see you then.